Welcome, dear traders. Today, traders are looking forward to the release of the FOMC meeting minutes. At the same time, news on the war in Ukraine remains in the limelight. In Australia, speculators are factoring in the results of the federal election. Besides, the election holds back the Reserve Bank of Australia from making more decisive steps in the fight against inflation. And let's discuss the highlights of the Asian session. The US dollar index has been growing for the last three sessions. As a result, it reached a 22-month high of 99.44. The main driver of the greenback's jump was Lael Brainard's speech. She is the second highest ranking FOMC member after Jerome Powell. And Lael said that the regulator would continue tightening monetary policy methodically through a series of interest rate increases after the May meeting. The Fed will also reduce the balance sheet at a rapid pace. This is why the March meeting minutes, which will be released today, are so important to traders. Apart from that, speculators are closely monitoring geopolitical news as the situation in Ukraine remains very tense. The US dollar will only benefit from market uncertainty. Besides, it's strong amid expectations of a key rate hike. The greenback has been rising thanks to these drivers for several months, so it's projected to climb even more ahead of the next Fed meeting. The euro weakened again due to fears about the outcome of the presidential election in France. Since the beginning of the year, the US dollar index, which measures the strength of the greenback against a basket of six main rivals, has already added more than 3%. In the Asian session, it was trading in the green zone. On the daily chart, it remains in the range of 99.47 and 99.75. However, the price has already touched 99.59. The dollar-yen pair is still vulnerable to the rate gap and different approaches of the Fed and the Bank of Japan to monetary policy. However, during the trading session on Tuesday, the price tried to break through 122.50. Yet it failed and reversed downwards. Today, the US dollar strengthened significantly against the yen. At the time of making this video, the pair has already increased by 23% to 123.85. It ended the last trading at 123.60. Even though a weaker yen is a positive for the economy, pressure to reduce the yield cap could become overwhelming if the yen plunges to around 130. How close may the yen come to the potentially dangerous level today? It's unclear now. In the Asian session, the pair was hovering in the range of 123.51 and 124.05. It was also growing higher. The Aussie finally managed to rebound as the Reserve Bank of Australia dropped a patient approach. Of course, the regulator would prefer not to change monetary policy parameters in the near future. At its March meeting, it kept the key rate unchanged at a record low. However, after the federal election to the Australian Parliament, scheduled for the end of May, the likelihood of a monetary policy tightening will be quite high. Besides, inflation in Australia has already hit an all-time high. The Fed's hawkish stance may also force the Reserve Bank of Australia to raise the key rate. The sell-off on Wall Street on Tuesday affected the sentiment in the Australian stock market, so the Australian main stock indexes are trading in the red today. The Aussie gained momentum, and the main reason was not the inverse correlation with the market, namely stocks fall to the currency rises. It jumped to meet expectations of a rate increase. Apart from that, it grew thanks to the bond market. The 10-year Australian government bond yield soared to a nearly 4-year high of 2.94%, and it occurred immediately after an increase in US Treasuries, which also surged to a multi-year high on Tuesday. The Aussie enjoys high demand like other commodity currencies, and today it has approached 0.7593, breaking through this high twice. The AUD USD pair declined to the level of 0.7580. However, analysts believe that the pair will soon resume an upward movement. Bullish bias will persist until the price consolidates above 0.7450. In the Asian session, the pair demonstrated a rather mixed dynamic, either falling or growing again. It's now hovering between the support level of 0.7564 and the resistance level of 0.7597. And that's all for now. Be aware of the latest market news with InstaForex TV channel. And thanks you're watching. See you soon.